I'm sure that we've all tried to figure out our BMI from one of those little charts, or maybe even a medical professional has informed you that your BMI is inadequate. But today, we're going to dive into why BMI as a marker of health is stupid. Before we jump into that though, we have to thank the sponsor of today's video, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community built to help you learn and grow. Whether you want to start a digital business or improve your painting skills, Skillshare has something for everyone. Now, I'm currently in my third year of business, and each year I like to revisit the basics. What are my company values? What are my goals this year? And how can I implement these things smartly and strategically? So one of the courses I recently started was Analytics and Authenticity on Instagram, Crafting Your Digital Presence with Sophia Chang. One of the main ways I grow my client base is through social media, so I'm always looking for courses that can help me reach people across all platforms. And it's really helpful to tie in my company values with a specific social media strategy. Now, like I said, there are thousands of courses over endless topics, so no matter your goal, remember that it's never too small, and Skillshare can help you along the way. Now, if you would like to try out Skillshare, I have a deal for you. The first 1,000 people to use my link down in the description box will receive a free month trial to Skillshare. So if you snag one of those memberships, let me know the first course you take down below, and thank you again to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Okay, I'm actually very excited to talk about this. She's done her research, she has opinions, and she's wearing a cat sweater. So let's start by defining what BMI is. BMI stands for Body Mass Index, and it's a person's weight divided by the square of their height. And the purpose of BMI is to screen for weight categories that may lead to health problems. Now, if you look at this chart up here, you'll see different numerical ranges associated to each section of the chart. So for example, if you're 5'8" and you weigh 165 pounds, you're gonna land in the low end of overweight with a BMI of like between 25 to 30. Now that you understand what BMI is, let's dive into the origin story, because I guarantee it's not what you expect. Okay, when I was scripting this, I thought using the term origin story was really funny. Like it was Thanos or something, like the BMI is Thanos. Anyway, BMI was created by a Belgian man in the 1830s named Adolf Quetelet. Okay, I now remember why I was calling it an origin story. You don't meet a lot, you don't hear, his name's Adolf. Anyway, so Adolf collected data on men's heights and weights at different ages in hopes to determine the average man. This was originally known as the Quetelet formula, however you say his last name, but now it is the BMI. So we're gonna jump right into my issues with using the BMI as a marker of health. I kind of have more issues than I know what to do with. We're gonna try and like clump these into categories. The first thing is body composition. I think this is the most obvious, and this is the thing you hear about the most. BMI does not take into account body composition at all. Remember that the number on the scale, your body weight, is a lot more than just how much fat you have in your body. It's the amount of fat, it is your bone density, it is your muscle mass, it is your water weight, it is anything that's in your intestines or your bowels. So, you know, someone who's a professional bodybuilder who's 6'1" and weighs, I don't know, 250 pounds, probably shouldn't be categorized as obese and at risk of all of these health complications that the BMI would say this person is at risk at. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of their body weight is probably muscle mass. Okay, so that's the first one. I feel like that's the thing we hear the most about. It's the most palatable, and it's probably something that most medical professionals are also aware of. The next thing I have an issue with, though, is the population that was studied. This is a big one because the population that was studied for this was very limited. It was limited to Belgian men. The world is made up of a lot more than just Belgian men. I'm not a Belgian man, so why would BMI apply to me? You know? Look, most studies in health in general, we can use that across the board, have been on white men throughout history. You can figure out why that is. It's not that complex. Things are changing now, but we can't take the information from those studies and apply it to everyone across the board from different sexes, different cultures, different populations, because different populations of people have existed for a long time, a lot longer than this study has even been done. A lot longer than any studies have ever been done. And people's bodies literally adapt to the climate, the culture, their surroundings. I'm just saying, like, Belgians and Polynesians are very different. So why are we putting them, why are we measuring their health under the same umbrella? And then using that marker of health to define, at least in this country, who deserves healthcare. It's fine. We're not going to get into that in this video. Ooh. And then another thing to consider with the population that we're talking about, it did not study biological females, it did not study children, and it did not study the elderly. It was just Belgian, white, adult men. And that's important to note because children are still growing, women are not just small men, and the elderly typically have less bone density and muscle mass, which is going to account for body composition and their overall scale weight. Editing Justina here. I did totally forget to mention that there is a completely separate scale of BMI for children, but this was done in the UK, which is, you guessed it, still predominantly white people of one country. So we can make the same arguments here. So why would we use the same system? Also, I'm trying really hard to use like as inclusive language as possible with like sex and gender and all of that. I'm still learning. So if I've kind of flubbed things or things like sound kind of clunky, it's because I am still learning and unlearning. So please bear with me. Thank you. Okay. And we're going to put in one more category, which is like the body's natural fluctuations, especially for people who menstruate. A 5 to 10 pound weight difference, like on the scale, isn't super uncommon, but depending on where you fall in this BMI scale, that could potentially put you from normal into overweight, simply because maybe you're in a certain part of your cycle where you hold on to more water. So it seems to me like that's not super helpful then as a measure of health. Also, just like food for thought, if you fall in the overweight category and then something happens and you have to get your leg amputated and now you're in the normal category, that shouldn't be a marker of health. You shouldn't be able to chop off a limb and be like, now I'm healthy. Anything that doesn't take that into consideration shouldn't be used in a doctor's office. Okay, new angle so we don't get bored. This all brings us to our conclusion. Sure, BMI might be helpful as an eyeball of someone's overall health, but we have other measures of health that tell us a much better, more specific story. Your blood panel, your cholesterol levels, your blood pressure, your resting heart rate. So why don't we just use those? We keep relying on a measure of health that doesn't actually measure health and was never meant to. It was meant to figure out what an average white Belgian dude is. And I can tell you why this is. It's because our society has a fat bias. I'm gonna link some different books and podcasts and other resources down below in case you wanna look into this a little bit more, because this is a very like skim the surface level of what really is going on with BMI and our healthcare system. So if you wanna learn a little bit more, because this topic fascinates me, I would definitely encourage taking advantage of those resources down below. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future videos, and I will see you all in the next one.